His Excellency, the Ambassador of Israel to South Africa, Arthur Link, the Chief Rabbi of South Africa, Rabbi Dr. Warren Goldstein, our special international guests who have come for this conference, the Mayor of Jerusalem, Nir Barkat, and his wife Beverly, the Chairman of the Jewish Agency for Israel, Natan Sharansky, and his wife Avital, the former Attorney General and Minister of Justice of Canada, Professor Erwin Kotler, member of the Israeli Knesset, Avishai Braverman, and Israel's Entrepreneur of the Year, Gadi Mazor. Our diplomatic representatives here tonight, His Excellency Dr. Nenad Prelog, Ambassador of Croatia, His Excellency Mr. Becker Diwali, Ambassador of Georgia, His Excellency Mr. Bradley Bellinger, Chargé d'Affaires of the High Commissioner of Canada, and Mr. Alexander Fursov, Counsel of the Russian Embassy, various members of the South African Parliament, Bishop Nkosi Phakama Shemba and Prophet Banda, Nati and Francis Kirsch, rabbis, communal leaders, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the South African Zionist Federation, it gives me great pleasure to welcome everyone here tonight to our national conference, the 48th conference to be held in our 117 years of existence. The hosting of this conference has been made possible due to the generosity of our sponsors and the hard work and dedication of the professional staff of the Federation and Biyachad. I wish to thank the sponsors of this conference, which include Ivan and Lizette Zaltzman, Eric and Sheila Sampson, Stephen Kossoff and Investec, the Sassoon family and Sasfin Bank, Chanoch Nishlus, Stuart Stone, Johnny Copeland, and Sogo San. This conference, as well as every other activity and project of the Federation, is undertaken by a handful of the most able, dedicated, and hard-working professional staff within the communal Jewish world. I want to thank Isla Feldman, our Executive Director, together with her entire staff, including Froma Sachs, Benji Schulman, Miriam Garb, Lisa Peretz, Gavi Sachs, and Bev Goldman, for their outstanding contribution to this conference. It is important to note that over and above this conference, this week we had IAW Week on campuses, as well as tomorrow, the Israel Expo, of which everyone here is invited and encouraged to attend as well. All of this done by, as I mentioned, literally a handful of staff. I also wish to thank the South African Police Services and the Johannesburg Metro Police Department for all of their assistance in ensuring a safe and successful conference and expo over the next 2 days. I want to use this occasion to thank, on behalf of the entire community, the CSO for the tireless and incredible work that they have performed in securing not only this function, but every event that is hosted by this community. It is only due to the self-sacrifice and dedication of thousands of CSO volunteers that we are able to live the vibrant and rich Jewish life that we take for granted as proud, vocal, Zionistic South African Jews. Thank you. In the presence of Natan Sharansky, I want to thank the Jewish Agency for Israel for creating a unique partnership with the South African Jewish community in the form of the Israel Center. The Israel Center, led for the past 13 years by 5 truly magnificent shlichim, including Michael Mensky, Doron Klein, Ofer Dahan, Shimon Shemila, and Aviad Sela, have in partnership with the SAZF managed to transform this community and its commitment to the State of Israel. Together, we have ensured that almost every South African Jewish child is able to attend an educational program in Israel and over 50% of members of this community leaving South Africa now choose Israel as their home. I also want to pay tribute to our partners in this community, the IUA-UCF campaign and the South African Jewish Border Deputies. The IUA is responsible for providing the lion's share of the funding to the Federation and ensures that we fulfill our mandate to this community. And the South African Jewish Border Deputies is our irreplaceable partner in working together to try and change the attitudes and opinions of the South African government, media, and ordinary citizens towards Israel. As I stand here this evening, there is a sense of fear and foreboding that is spreading over the Jewish world. After a 70-year reprieve since the end of the Holocaust and the liberation of its death camps, we appear to be returning to a world that we know all too well, one of hatred and enmity towards all Jews, which inevitably leads to violent attacks and even genocide. Jewish children are being taunted in the streets of almost every European city. Our shops are being boycotted, defaced and destroyed, and we are ruthlessly murdered in our kosher supermarkets, schools and shuls. The Prime Minister of Israel has felt compelled in the most public manner possible to plead with the President of the United States not to reach an agreement with Iran in relation to its nuclear program. An agreement that in the Prime Minister's view would enable our arch enemy to obtain within a short period of time the necessary nuclear weapons to carry out its publicly declared aim of wiping Israel off the map, murdering once again 6 million Jews. But despite the impending darkness, this is not a time to despair nor lose hope. While our enemies and the threats we face in the world around us might not have changed, the Jewish people and nation in the past 67 years has transformed beyond recognition. No one symbolizes these incredible triumphs and achievements of the Jewish people in our lifetime better than our three guest speakers who are addressing us here tonight. For all of us, the fact that Nir Barkat is the mayor of Jerusalem is nothing unusual or extraordinary. But for those that came before us, it is the realization of a 2 millennia-old dream. Over 100 generations of Jews lived with the constant pain and anguish of watching Jerusalem, our most holy site, central to our being and existence, being ruled by the Romans, the Byzantines, Umayyads, Abbasids, Fatimids, Crusaders, Mamluks, Ottomans, and the British Empire. They would have given anything and everything to witness our holy city of Jerusalem being rebuilt and governed by a Jewish mayor who presides over the undivided capital city of a sovereign, democratic Jewish state. And the mayor that we speak of this evening is not only a symbol of the realization and culmination of 2,000 years of longing and prayer, but represents the best of modern Israel, a combat soldier who succeeded in the high-tech world of the Israeli economy and then ran for public office in a manner similar to Michael Bloomberg in New York. But even Michael Bloomberg couldn't stop a knife-wielding terrorist with his own bare hands. And in Natan Sharansky, we have the very embodiment of the biblical prophecy of the ingathering of the exiles of the Jewish people from all corners of the world to our ancient biblical land. In the 1970s and 80s, Natan Sharansky took on the might of one of the most powerful, evil empires that have ever existed to demand his right as a Jew to return to his homeland. For his efforts, he was imprisoned for 9 long years in the infamous Soviet Siberian Gulag. His plight and those of thousands of other Soviet Jewish refuseniks galvanized and mobilized the Jewish world and their Western allies to campaign for their release. This culminated in Natan Sharansky being freed in 1986 before the eyes of the entire world. Little did we know then what the ramifications of this global campaign to free Russian Jewry would lead to, namely the collapse of the communist Soviet Union and the freeing of over 3 million Jews from its clutches, 1 million of whom chose to make Israel their home, thereby changing the economy and society of the Jewish state forever. Professor Erwin Kotler represents the unique partnership between the State of Israel and diaspora Jewry, the pride, freedom, security, and dignity that the State of Israel has bestowed on every Jew throughout the world has allowed Jews in many democracies to rise to positions of power and influence seldom ever achieved in our history. It has enabled us not only to champion our own human rights, but to champion the cause of the oppressed and downtrodden throughout the world. Professor Kotler, because of who he is and what he represents, is the only human rights lawyer who simultaneously represented Natan Sharansky in his fight for freedom from the jails of communist Russia and simultaneously represented Nelson Mandela in his fight to be freed from the jails of one of communism's most staunch adversaries, apartheid South Africa. All three of these men represent what the Jewish people have become: a strong, powerful, confident, and resilient people with the State of Israel at the center of our lives. A Jewish state willing and able to protect and defend every Jew, no matter who and where they may be. The events of our time are no less miraculous and inspiring than those we read of in our holy books and celebrate during our festivals. If we remain united and true to our faith, heritage, and values, we will succeed in writing another glorious chapter in the history of the Jewish people. And in this momentous and tumultuous era that we live, a paragraph has specifically been reserved for the Jews of South Africa. In August 2001, South African world Jewry awoke to a new, insidious form of attack against Israel. The new campaign against Israel to isolate, delegitimize, and demonize it was launched in Durban at the United Nations World Conference Against Racism. At this conference, our enemies led by Iran proclaimed that Israel was the new apartheid state and the world needed to destroy it through the instruments of boycotts, divestment, and sanctions, as they had done to apartheid South Africa. The choice of South Africa as the venue to launch this campaign was no coincidence. Without South Africa's support, the very nation which had lived and suffered under apartheid, this campaign had no legitimacy and was stillborn. It is for this reason that South Africa has become ground zero in the battle for Israel's legitimacy within the world of nations, and it has fallen upon us as South African Jewry and our Christian allies to lead the fight against this modern-day blood libel. To date, we have fought this battle bravely and tenaciously. Our small community, led by the South African Zionist Federation and the South African Jewish Board of Deputies, have pushed back firmly and successfully against many of these unjustified and discriminatory actions taken against the State of Israel, including overturning the so-called travel ban and the proposal to label goods made in the West Bank as made in occupied Palestinian territories. During Operation Protective Edge, and in an environment of unprecedented levels of anti-Semitism, threats of violence, and hate speech, 12,000 South Africans of all faiths, colors, and creed gathered to show their support at Huddle Park, Johannesburg, for the State of Israel and its people. This was the largest Israel Solidarity rally in the entire world outside of India, which has a couple more people than South Africa. As a community, we are honored and privileged to be able to play such an important and vital role in the fight for the continued survival and flourishing of the Jewish people and the modern-day miracle, which is the State of Israel. And we will continue to fight for Israel's right to exist as a Jewish and democratic state. And we will not tire nor rest until we have secured peace and security for Israel and have prevailed against those who destroy it. Thank you.